They say the lake is haunted, that beneath its black, glassy surface it remembers. It remembers the screams, the secrets, and the sins that sank with them. Late one October evening, Detective Lena Ward stood on the bank of Grayson Lake, the wind biting at her coat, staring at the choppy waters where divers had just pulled a body from the depths. Only it wasn't the body she had come for. 3 weeks earlier, 17-year-old Emma Cartwright had vanished after leaving her evening shift at a nearby diner. Her phone last pinged near the lake. Everyone assumed the worst. Everyone thought they'd finally found her. But the corpse they retrieved that day wasn't a teenage girl. It was a man, mid-30s, decomposed beyond recognition, but still intact enough to reveal one crucial clue. His wrists were bound. No ID, no wallet, just a black wristwatch stopped at 2:46 a.m. and a chain necklace with a broken dog tag. The divers swore there was no way they'd missed another body down there. If Emma was in a lake, she wasn't in it anymore, which raised two terrifying possibilities. 1, Emma never made it to the lake. 2, someone had taken her and left someone else behind, and that someone had clearly not been meant to be found. Lena's partner, Detective Malik Grant, was already at the station by the time she got back, poring over missing persons reports from the last decade. Doesn't match any open cases, he said without looking up. But get this. There was a string of disappearances between 2008 and 2011. All men. All around the same age. No bodies, no suspects. Cold cases. How many? Lena asked. Malik looked up, his brow furrowed. 4, including this guy. Possibly 5. They'd been so focused on Emma, they hadn't considered that her case might be tied to something much older and much darker. That night, Lena couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the diver's words, the way one of them had whispered to another when they thought she couldn't hear. The weight tied to him, it wasn't rocks, it was a safe. A safe? Why would a body be tied to a safe? Unless whatever was inside it was worth killing over. The next morning, they returned to the lake with sonar equipment. This time, they weren't looking for Emma. They were looking for that safe. By noon, they found it, wedged between 2 sunken tree trunks, half buried in silt. It took 6 men and a crane to haul it out. It was locked, of course, rusted shut, but Lena noticed something strange about the exterior. Etched into the side was a symbol, a triangle with a line through it. She'd seen it before, somewhere in an old case file. The safe was taken to the lab for inspection. They opened it carefully, expecting drugs, money, maybe weapons. What they found instead was something far worse. Inside were photographs, hundreds of them, all of girls, young, pale, most of them looked terrified. And in the bottom of the safe, beneath the last stack, was a VHS tape. The label read simply, property of VC. Lena's blood ran cold. That name, VC, was from a closed case 10 years ago. Vincent Calder, a former youth counselor who mysteriously vanished after being investigated for abuse. Never charged, never seen again. As until now, they rushed the tape to the AV lab. The footage was grainy, distorted by age and water damage, but one thing was clear. The man in the tape was the same man they just pulled from the lake. By now, the town was starting to buzz. Rumors flew fast that the lake was cursed, that someone was burying secrets deep in the water, only to have them rise again. Lena and Malik knew they were staring at something bigger than a missing girl, something that stretched back years, something orchestrated. The name Vincent Calder hadn't come up in a decade, but when Lena went digging into his old files, she found something the original investigators had missed. A second name, Lucien Harrow, a conspiracy theorist, a survivalist, and Calder's roommate at the time of his disappearance. According to the old reports, Harrow had a thing for codes. He believed the government was hiding dark rituals in small-town institutions. Schools, churches, lakes. Sounded crazy. Until now. Lena traced the triangle symbol from the safe to one of Harrow's old blog posts, archived in a digital ghost of the early internet. It was a symbol of the Triune Order, an alleged secret society said to operate in rural towns, preying on vulnerable youth for initiation rituals, all mythology, supposedly, until you pull a safe of terrified girls' photos from a lake. At night, Lena got a call from an unknown number. A raspy voice on the other end whispered, "They found the wrong body." He froze. "Who is this?" The line went dead. She ran a trace. It pinged from a burner cell less than a mile from where Emma had last been seen. And it wasn't just a random call. Outside her apartment that night, written in chalk on the pavement, were the same words from the tape. Property of VC. Lena brought in Emma's family the next morning. They were shaken, especially when she showed them one of the recovered photos from the safe. They confirmed what she feared. The girl in the photo, eyes wide in terror, mouth gagged, was Emma. But the timestamp was taken 2 years before she disappeared. How was that possible? Was Emma being watched all these years, groomed for something? Was she part of a cycle? If Emma had been taken, maybe she wasn't the first. Maybe she wasn't even the target. And then came the final blow. The lab called. In the lining of the safe, behind the photos, they'd found a second VHS tape. And this won't mark trial. Phase 2. The second tape didn't start with static. It started with music. A child's lullaby slowed down, warped like it had drowned. Then the screen lit up. An old room, wood paneled dim, a chair in the center. And in that chair, another girl. Not Emma, someone else, maybe 14, pale, terrified. She had a number taped to her chest, 7. In the background, masked figures moved slowly, methodically. 3 of them. One carried a clipboard, one held a camera, the third just stood motionless in the shadows. This wasn't just abduction. This was documentation. Detective Lena Ward stopped the tape. She didn't want to go further, not without understanding what she was watching. She brought in a profiler from the FBI, Dr. Elaine Kershaw. One look at the footage, and Kershaw gave it a name. Ritualistic conditioning. According to her, the footage wasn't meant for blackmail or ransom. It was training. Psychological and behavioral manipulation of young victims. And the numbers? They indicated there were others. More than 7. Possibly a dozen. Possibly more. Meanwhile, Malik had tracked down a former associate of Vincent Calder, a man named Jeremy Lyles, now living under a different name in a halfway house 2 states over. He refused to talk at first until Lena showed him a still from the tape. He turned white, visibly trembled. "Don't say his name," he muttered. "Calder?" Malik asked. "No," Lyles whispered. "Not Calder. Him." After hours of silence, Lyles finally muttered 2 words. "The archivist." A name that had appeared nowhere in Calder's case files, a name that wasn't tied to any police report, witness statement, or database. Lyles claimed the archivist was the one who collected victims. He was the recruiter, the planner, the one who decided who disappeared and who didn't. According to Lyles, Calder was just the operator, the executioner. But the archivist, he watched, he documented, and he never stopped. Back at the station, Lena ran the footage again, this time focusing on the camera used in the recording. It was visible in a mirror on the wall. It wasn't a home camcorder. It was broadcast-grade equipment, high-end professional. That meant money, infrastructure, an audience. Somebody was funding this, and somebody had been watching. The kicker, the equipment brand had a serial code visible in one frame. That serial number was traced to an order made through a now-defunct shell company registered in a nearby town. There's a name on the lease, Lucian Harrell. He wasn't just a recluse with theories. He was involved. Lena and Malik drove to the location listed in the company records. An abandoned building, formerly a public library, boarded up for 10 years. Inside, the dust was thick, the air heavy with mildew and rotting paper. But down in the basement, they found something the police had missed when it was first cleared years ago. A hidden room, steel door, coded lock, still powered. Lena guessed the code, 2746. the time on the dead man's broken watch. It worked. Inside, the room was lined floor to ceiling with tapes, numbered, cataloged, filed with surgical precision. Each tape was labeled with a name, and each name was tagged with a number: Trial I, Trial 2, Selection 5, Graduation. Lena stood there, silent, realizing what they were looking at. This was an archive of horror, a system of suffering. But before they could grab the tapes, the lights went out. Gunshots rang out in the dark. Malik shoved Lena to the ground just as a bullet shattered the concrete behind her. Someone was in the room. Someone waiting. A figure in a long black coat emerged from the shadows, gun raised, but they didn't fire. Instead, they dropped something at Lena's feet and ran. By the time Malik chased them out the back exit, they were gone. The object they left, a Polaroid photo of Emma taken yesterday. The worst truth, she's still alive, and that means they're not done. Forensics confirmed that Emma was alive, but where? At night. Another call came, same voice, same static. She's almost ready, the voice said. Phase 3 begins soon. Then click. Lena stared at the whiteboard in her office. She wrote the words, PHASE selection. But what was phase 3? And how many more victims were selected? And she started cross-referencing the names on the archive tapes with local missing persons reports going back 20 years. The results were staggering. Too many matched. And one stood out, a girl missing in 2004. Her case was never solved. Her name was Rebecca Harrow, Lucian Harrow's sister. Lena started to see the bigger picture. Harrow wasn't just involved, he had a reason, maybe a vendetta. Maybe he believed he was exposing something or playing both sides. Then, another file crossed her desk. A report from 2016. An officer had pulled over a black van parked near Grayson Lake in the early hours of the morning. Inside, he reported seeing strange equipment, metallic restraints, and camera gear. But the report was closed, overridden by a senior officer, his Captain Dale Mercer, her boss. Lena confronted Mercer the next morning. He brushed it off, claimed it was part of a sting operation, but the way he avoided eye contact told her more than any excuse. She left his office, her head spinning. He had to find Emma. Now, and then her phone rang again. Only this time, it wasn't static. It was Emma whispering, I'm not supposed to call. They said I'm almost ready. And then, in a choked voice, Detective Ward, what does graduation mean? The voice on the phone haunted Lena long after the call ended. What does graduation mean? She replayed those words over and over. Something about them felt like a countdown, like a final step, a ceremony. But what kind of ceremony? The safe, the tapes, the secret society. It all pointed to a twisted ritual designed to transform victims or maybe break them. Lena knew she was chasing shadows, but every clue was pulling her deeper into a labyrinth. Her first stop, the missing girl's family. Rebecca Harrow's parents had moved out of town years ago, but her old house was still listed in county records as abandoned. Lena and Malik arrived just before dusk. The windows were boarded, the garden wild with weeds, but on the porch, a single piece of paper was taped to the door, written in shaky handwriting. Inside, they found nothing but dust and broken furniture, except for a bookshelf that had been recently disturbed. Behind it was a small safe, empty. The lock was broken, the hinges rusted. Lena's heart sank. Who had taken what was inside, and why leave this warning? Next, Lena dug into graduation. It wasn't just a word. It was a code. In the tape's catalog, graduation tapes were the last, and each set marked with dates and locations. She mapped the locations all rural towns near lakes or forests, all with reports of disappearances or strange activity. A pattern emerged. The triune order wasn't just local, it was regional, maybe even national. One lead brought Lena to a cold call from a woman named Mara Finch, a survivor. Mara claimed she escaped one of these rituals years ago. She had no proof, but her descriptions matched everything Lena had uncovered. I was number 11, Mara said. They broke me, changed me. The safe, it's more than just photos and tapes. It's their ledger, their trophy case. She warned Lena that the graduation was a ceremony marking the final transformation where victims were forced to pledge loyalty to the order or disappear forever, and that Vincent Calder and Lucien Harrell were just puppets. Meanwhile, Malik found a breakthrough in the police archives, a sealed file on Captain Mercer. It detailed financial transactions between Mercer and unknown entities, one labeled simply Project Triune. The deeper Lena and Malik dug, the clearer it became. The police had been protecting the order for years. And Emma's disappearance wasn't the first case they had buried. One rainy evening, Laney's apartment was broken into. Nothing was stolen, but the walls were smeared with red paint and words scrawled in hurried handwriting. "You cannot save her, you're next." Fear clawed at her, but so did determination. She called Malik. Find everything on Mercer now. In the days that followed, they uncovered a horrifying truth. Graduation wasn't just a ceremony, it was a test. Those who survived were inducted into the order. The victims weren't just prey, they were candidates. The safe contained their fates. And Emma, he wasn't just a victim. She was being groomed for initiation. As Lena prepared to confront Mercer, a new piece of evidence arrived, anonymously. A USB drive. On it, a video. This time, it was Emma herself. Weak, bruised, but alive. She whispered directly to the camera, "If you're watching this, I'm trapped. They say graduation is freedom. It's not, it's a lie. Please find the truth before it's too late." The screen flickered, then cut to black. And just when Lena thought she had the pieces aligned, Malik vanished. No warning. Malik's disappearance hit Lena harder than anything else. She retraced his last steps, digging through his notes, calls, and emails. The last thing he had done was visit an old warehouse on the outskirts of town, marked on the map as Site 27. She knew she was walking into the lion's den. The warehouse was empty, silent except for the hum of distant machinery. Inside, Lena found signs of recent activity, discarded gloves, cigarette butts, and, chillingly, a chair with restraints, stained dark. Her phone buzzed. Message from an unknown number. Lena's heart pounded. She realized this was the final test, the culmination of everything the Triune Order had planned. She followed the GPS coordinates to a clearing near Grayson Lake. In the moonlight, figures in dark robes circled a bonfire, and at the center, a cave. Inside, Emma, thin, broken, but alive, eyes wide with terror. Lena shouted Emma's name, but the crowd hushed. The leader stepped forward, tall, hooded. It was Mercer. Mercer's voice was cold, final. "This is the Triune Order's true purpose, to cleanse the weak, to bring purity through pain. Emma is our next initiate, and you will decide her fate." Lena's mind raced. She noticed Malik, tied and unconscious beside the cage. She needed a plan, fast. As Mercer raised a ceremonial dagger, Lena lunged, knocking the blade aside. Chaos erupted. Members of the Order scrambled. Gunshots fired. Lena freed Malik. Together they fought their way toward Emma. But then the cage door slammed shut. A second figure emerged. Lucien Harrell. He revealed the true nature of the graduation, a mind control process designed to create loyal operatives who could infiltrate and expand the Order's reach. Emma wasn't just a victim. She was a weapon in the making. The final choice was clear: fight and risk losing everything, or submit and become part of the darkness. Lena grabbed Emma's hand, whispering, "We're getting out." Together they escaped into the foggy night. Behind them, Mercer's scream echoed. The lake remembers, and it will take us all. Weeks later, Lena sat alone in her office, nursing a coffee. Emma was in protective custody, but her eyes held secrets no one could reach. Malik was recovering, but forever changed. And the tapes, the safe, the order, they were still out there, waiting, watching, because some secrets never drown.